Adam, welcome to Focus on the Fun Stuff.
Thank you.
I'm very glad to have you here. I've known you for a really long time. I think ultimately via like business organisations that we've met in originally, as we've both been learning and growing our businesses. And I was excited to have you on today. The reason why I asked is because I know you've got quite a unique experience and history of growing and selling a business, starting another business, also the industries that you're interested in, I feel like are very apt to people enjoying and focusing on the fun stuff. But I also know that you're a straight talker and you have strong opinions on some things. And I feel like if ever I was going to get some no nonsense advice on how to do things, I was thinking of Adam Cara.
I'll try not to disappoint.
So, Adam, welcome to the podcast. So I guess just to put listeners in the frame of where you're at now. So when I met you, you were founding and growing an online learning business, which you sold after 3 years for like a 8-figure sum, sorry. So that was in like 2014 to 2017. And then you pretty quickly got into a new business, which you're still in, you've had for 7 years and you're growing. So I guess I would love to start just to get the flavour of who Adam is and what made you start a business. Just like prior to starting Learning Heroes, which was in 2014, had you had businesses before?
Yeah.
Was it like you just went, I'm going to start a business, and then, because from the outside it looks like you started this business, 3 years later you sold it for 8 figures.
It's easy,
yeah.
Everyone should just do that. I think growing up, I kind of always wanted to run my own business. I remember at age 15 saying to some guy, like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. And he went, well, the only way you're going to do that is be a footballer or start your own business. So I was like, I'm pretty good at football, but I'm not that good. I think that planted a bit of a seed in my head to want to start my own business. And I always just took jobs like when, that interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'd say like running my own business. But if I'm still learning stuff, I might be here. And they're like, not the answer we're looking for, but you've got the job.
Appreciate your honesty.
So I just always took jobs that I felt were kind of giving me a well-rounded experience to one day be able to start a business. And, maybe missing out a little bit of the story, but I got a job where I was in sort of customer service and they gave me a chance to do a bit of marketing and a bit of sales, and I kind of outgrew the role. But that company was owned by an even bigger company, and they said, oh, we've kind of had our eye on you. Do you want to join this team? So I learned a lot more. And then that company was owned by an even bigger company, and they said, oh, we've kind of had our eye on you. And do you want to help us in this new enterprise division where we're setting up new businesses for the group?
All right.
So I kind of got my first taste of entrepreneurship with the safety net of having a salary and everything else. So it was a bit working for that guy where we were setting up different divisions and different entities for the group. At one point, I kind of sat there, my wife was pregnant. I was living out of a suitcase in Luton, getting fed up of traveling and stuff, thinking, I've set up a business for them. I've set up a training company, a consultancy business. I've been doing this, that, the other. It's just, why don't I do it for myself now? Right. So that leap, it's kind of like there's never a good time. And everybody around me was a bit like, oh, it's risky, do this, that. But I just kind of knew, right, I'm gonna go for it. So kind of felt like it was still a bit post-2009 recession-y.
Mm-hmm.
The economy wasn't great, and I didn't really have a load of money to get it going, but just felt like, well, worst case scenario, I'll go and get a job in 3 months. So 2010 is when I set up my first business.
Okay, and what was that?
Yeah, so it's training. It was very much a classic training model of like we'd hire out a venue, like a hotel, try and get people to book on, but it was like health and safety, environment, food, quality control, so very compliance-y, boring-y stuff.
Okay.
Compared to where Learning Heroes ended up, trying to save the world from boring e-learning. My first sort of training company was very much like the most boring. Yeah. So, but I liked the model. It was scalable. I always had this principle of never selling my time for money. I kind of got that from an early age. And, I was selling the trainers' time. I could have 10 trainers out on a day. So I liked the model and the scalability of it. And I was kind of getting into like, well, maybe e-learning's coming along and this digital stuff. So that was always quite exciting. But yeah, that was the first one, a training company. I think you'd be quite interested in this, actually. I think I remember like writing down some form of mission statement or whatever I would have called it in the time. But I just said, I want this to be a platform that I can employ my friends and family to have a nice job and on which I can launch other things I'm more interested in. So it wasn't ever like, we're going to grow to be the biggest and best company and sell it or anything. It was to give me a base to then do the things I actually was passionate about.
Was that mission statement, was that for this first business you're talking about?
Yeah, the first one, yeah.
Okay,
so I think like when I look back at that, I think that's quite a rare view to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was literally what I wrote down, is like, I want this to just be a platform on which I can launch other things. And you know, it's a lot easier when you've already got an office and the internet's paid for and some team members. And you know, so I actually launched a bunch of stuff.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I tried to launch a social media network. I tried to launch, well, it's all kinds of weird stuff. Shiny new objective, very, you know, entrepreneurial ADHD style stuff. But yeah, not many of them worked out so well. But the lessons obviously were the main value. Yeah.
And then you, so then Learning Heroes is the one that was a big success for you. Yeah,
and again, you know, some people might look at it on paper and say it was 3 years, but it went back way before that. You know, I'd got a contract doing some e-learning. Like these guys asked us to come in and shoot a video to shoot some like asbestos training video, and I was like, shooting video sounds hard. So I said in the meeting, we can do animation. He went, that's even better, great. So I went back to my brother, went, we need to figure out how to do animation. I've just
that feels like it's more complicated to me than shooting video.
Well, if you've got to redo it, you've got to go there again and stuff.
Right, okay.
So I was like, oh, we can sit at a computer and get it done, whereas we
okay.
can't be bothered going on site or any actors and scripts. So I quite like, so, you know, kind of overpromise and then go and overdeliver was the model. So, you know, and then there was this other contract where they said, oh, we've got all this e-learning, we just need someone to do the platform that hosts it all. I was like, we can do that. And, you know, all these different things, like the Steve Jobs connecting the dots type speech, looking back, I can see the journey to get into day one of Learning Heroes. It was many years before. You know, we'd done a lot of that, but yeah, it started Learning Heroes in 2014. Again, what we called it accredited skills. We were going to only do accredited courses. We were going to partner with recruitment agents. We did the first course and it was like, this is boring, I hate it. How am I going to sell this if I don't like it?
Right.
And kind of a really good coaching question to the team was like, what would e-learning have to look like for us to actually enjoy it?
Yeah.
And we were like, remember that animation we used to do? That was pretty good. Like, so we invented a new style. And while we were trying to convince recruitment agents to sell it for us, my other training company, our corporate clients were just going, oh my God, this is brilliant, we'll buy it. So I was like, well, forget the accredited courses, forget recruitment agents, we'll just make really cool, sharp, short, conversational training that people like and go straight to corporates. And it would just turned out to be really disruptive because it was the best product on the market at the lowest price.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, we were sort of really disrupting the industry. Like there were people who were almost wanting to buy us just to stop us doing what we were doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could talk all day about it. There were so many good sort of lessons in that model, which is what, like I said, I'm doing a few things right now. One of them is to redo that. So.
And the 3 years that you spent like growing, learning, like what was it like? Did you enjoy it? Was it all consuming? Was like how was that for Adam to in that 3 years?
I don't know if I enjoyed it. It's a funny one, I guess. I don't always think in terms of enjoyment and happy.
Yeah.
It's just be in a sense, yeah. And I think actually it was quite stressful. It was quite difficult. It was challenging for lots of different reasons, not least the dynamics with the people and all kinds going on. But it was the self-satisfaction of like growing, seeing something succeeding and happy customers, you know, happy team, making a great product. Yeah, there was a lot of reward and satisfaction for that, but I was really focused on the end. Like, again, I'm talking about setting up weird mission statements on day one. The plan was we're going to sell this.
Was it?
It was built to sell.
That. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was the plan from day one. And what really shocked me was how that influenced so many decisions, small decisions, knowing that we were building it to sell. Just simple things. Do you put your mobile phone expenses through the company? It's like, no, because that won't help the accounts. Like that won't look good on the portfolio when we come to the prospectus when we come to try and sell it. So loads of decisions were based on built to sell. And
what other kind of things? Like if somebody's thinking, oh, actually, I do want to grow my business out. Like what were some of the key things that you did think about differently?
Maybe not answering the exact question, but one thing that really struck me was, if I was to say to somebody now, what's your product? And they say, oh, we do IT services. I'm like, well, what's your price point? And they go, oh, $2,000 a year. And who's your ideal customer? Medium-sized business, blah, blah, blah. I think when I was doing built to sell, I was like, well, my ideal customer is head of M&A at a medium-sized corporate. My product is this business. The price point is 10 million. And when you see yourself as like the entrepreneur who's built a business and that's your product, and profit's just a feature of the product, the management team's just a feature of the product. When you kind of step outside of the day, like being in the business, I think it starts to make sense. So building it as this thing that, I remember recruiting people going, well, will his CV look good when I say your MD who's running the business?
Right, okay.
Oh, he's got a good pedigree, it looks good. So there was lots of things that were not, you don't get attached to in a way. Like when I sold it, everyone's like, oh, you sold your baby? I was like, not really.
No, it's not my baby.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I was just talking about that, not in the last episode, just before, around how most of us, like I was an EA, so I know how to be a PA, I know how the impact is, and I'm like got this whole emotional thing around my PA is like, has to be like this, and we help it, whereas I guess you didn't have that at all.
Obviously, huge amount of integrity in terms of like the customer and the way we lead the team and being honest and everything. So it was a fine balancing act, but on the other hand, I wasn't really attached to it. I was gunning for that exit. So, setting up all these different strategic partnerships, it was, could this one be the one that evolves into them saying, well, we don't want 20% commission, we want 100%. What's your price? So there was everyone I was kind of talking to. Again, like a guy who ended up giving me some really good advice. I kind of struck that relationship up because I knew I had an exit in mind. So he was able to then sort of give me some really good pointers on how we would be valued. It was like me and the guys who set it up, we had this target on the board, or if we get to this many customers, this much revenue, we can sell it for this much. I know there's a couple of things where I just slashed the target in half and said, don't worry, I'll sell it for twice what you think it's worth, because I've learned so much about how to sell and how to find a premium buyer and how we're going to do that. So that's why, partly why it was only 3 years is because we've sold it for such a premium.
Right. Wow.
I think it probably worked out to being something like 32 times EBIT if they cared to work it out, but they didn't.
Gosh.
Yeah. So when people talk to me about, oh, my accountant says my company's worth 3 to 5 times EBIT, it breaks my heart, because you spend 10 years building a business. I could probably teach you in 10 days how to sell it for double.
Yeah.
Probably 10 minutes, really.
And when you say it was like 32 times and they probably like didn't work that out, so what was their main strategy? Was it your customer base, or was it the products you had?
Somewhat customer base. It was mostly value was just pretty much a multiple of revenue. So it was all top line, because the product kind of is 100% margin. It was like a SaaS business model. So they would value it on revenue. We had about 350 customers. They already had 3,500. So the day that they bought us, they probably made it 10 times bigger overnight. They just cross-sold our product into their customers. So, if I was trying to sell to private equity or a competitor or a management buyout, they wouldn't see that sort of opportunity. Whereas, we were a UK business with a tiny footprint. We'd just proven we can sell in America, and they were like, no, we'll do that. So they just took over and launched it across America.
Oh my gosh. And did you have, because often people say like if you want to build something to sell, you should have in mind who's going to buy it. Did you have that in mind?
It was an evolving journey throughout, like it was understanding what that would be, because I guess I probably didn't really even know who buys a business and how and why, so learning a lot of that throughout. So it kind of evolved the picture of that. But like I said, I kind of had this idea that it would be a strategic partnership that evolved into an acquisition, because you've got all that trust. They know you, the business, they know the brand and the product, and I just thought one of them. So there's a few I had in mind like that, which is quite interesting, because the guy who came along and bought I was trying to set up a partnership with him, and I wasn't in charge of partnerships at that point. So the guy kept getting in touch with me, and he said, oh, you know about that partnership? I was like, just speak to Tom, it's not me. And then he'd call me again. I was like, oh, why is he calling me again? He says, oh, great news, we're going to sell your product. Oh, bad news, I can't. My boss's boss won't let me. Great news, I'm going to do it anyway. And then he's like, bad news. He went, you remember my boss's boss? He said, we're not allowed to sell it. Well, he's actually head of M&A, and he's in London, and he wants to meet you tomorrow. And
oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, it's fine that you phoned me. So that kind of came a little bit out of nowhere, whereas all the other ones were getting close to, expressing an interest. But so they I think for them it was like a 6-point win because they stopped one of their competitors buying us. They got to buy us. There's, I think in our industry, there's every time we sold something for $5,000, they lost 50 because that was their price, and people were leaving them to come to us. So again, I could have probably sold the company to them for many multiples of revenue because am I worth what we're making, or am I worth what they're losing? So I'm sure their board was sat there going, just getting bought. Yeah. So either guys turn up at the house with baseball bats or the I don't know. But a competitive tension exit strategy is quite an interesting one. I've sometimes wondered that. Should I just launch something, give away something valuable for free until either I run out of money or
or you get bought?
Yeah, but I don't think I'm brave enough to do that yet.
So you sold the business. Clearly you must have enjoyed the journey to an extent, or enjoyed the process of building, and because you quite quickly started a new business. You were just telling me about your attempts at retirement prior to this.
Yeah, it's funny. I made a bet with a friend when I was about 15 that I was going to retire by 35, and I did retire 4 months before my 35th birthday.
That's pretty cool.
And I found I was quite bored. Maybe I don't want to say it was like an anticlimax because it wasn't, but it's just like the world got on. My wife was still teaching, so she's still busy at work, and I was all of a sudden doing the drop off or going shopping, or I just found it really boring. And I think at 34, to have gone through a journey where you do build a business from zero to, that sort of exit within 3 years, it would be criminal to not take that formula and go and do it again.
Yeah.
I guess some people, they make a load of money, they want to go and put it in property, something safe. And I was like, well, I don't like property. I like business. I love entrepreneurship in many forms. Solving problems, building products, building brands, building teams. It's what I think I'm good at. So it was like, well, I'm just going to go again and get back to work. And I think as well, when we talk about sort of work-life balance stuff, you realise like, well, the kids are at school most of the time. When they're babies and toddlers, you kind of think, oh, I want to spend as much time with them as possible. But in reality, and especially now my kids are even older, they don't really want to spend loads of time with me. So I was like, well, I've got another 10 years to 15 years to go at it. So I guess I'm planning for the next retirement. I always thought I'd never retire, but I kind of constantly think about it now. Yeah.
Well, I guess so. From starting this new business, which is called Coaching Culture, isn't it? So 7 years have elapsed, hasn't it?
It's the longest I've ever worked anywhere.
Is it?
Yeah.
Can I ask, did you approach that business? I guess it was different after you'd exited a business. Did you approach it with your own capital and more capital? Was that then a different way to start a business and maybe?
Yeah, very. Yeah, because obviously everything I've ever done before was what you'd call bootstrapped, and it's very much like you eat what you kill. Literally a month's, sales away from being out of business. Whereas, this, I guess I had the luxury of being able to write a check, and we were probably not as lean as I was used to.
Right.
But, maybe I tried to go and jump straight to level 3 instead of starting at level 1. And it was, I think it was good. It made things a lot easier. But the plan was to, again, do some sort of 3-year smash and grab, just make a few mil and, try retiring again. But 7 years in now, and I don't think I would sell it. It's just such a lovely business.
Really?
Yeah, the team's great. The customers love it. It's so easy to run, and it's now, I say CC stands for Coach Culture. It stands for Cash Cow. It's just enjoy the lifestyle of it. And I made some really good investments. So again, I guess I say I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I guess I probably always wanted to be an angel investor. I wouldn't have ever thought of it in those terms, but you grow up watching Dragon's Den thinking that looks cool, just judging people's businesses, saying, I'll write you a check or not. So as soon as I sold, first thing I did was getting involved in loads of angel networks, going to pitch events, seeing, what was out there. And I had a very, very tight criteria. I wanted like the Learning Heroes formula, and I knew that's, people were pitching all kinds of stuff, Johnson, this and this and this. One guy was pitching something. They were a market research agency, and he's like, we do market research for anyone who wants some research done. And I gave him some feedback. And he came up to me after, so I was like proper Dragon's Den, sat in the,
Did you have like cash on a table at the side of your
fake Monopoly money. But so he came up to me straight after and was like, oh, I really love the feedback, really interesting. We are looking for an investor. Where do you stand on it? I said, look, it doesn't fit my criteria. I'm looking for something that's more subscription and digital. So he went, okay, well, we do have this market research business that we'll do research for anyone if they'll pay us for the time to do it. But we've also got this product where, we do market research on kids, and every 3 months we produce a quarterly report, and we've got like 7 customers, but they pay us like 10 grand a year, including Disney and these guys. I was like, oh, well, that's more my thing. Like, it's subscription, it's digital, it's scalable.
What kind of research do you mean were they pulling together?
So they'll ask loads of kids, loads of questions like, what's your favorite restaurant, favorite products, favorite teams, how much time do you spend on this, how much, pocket money do you have? And they produce all these incredible insights, and then they'll sort of offer it to, I don't know, McDonald's might partner with Cadbury's, but we know that the kids who say they like McDonald's as their favourite restaurant, their favourite chocolate's Kinder, so maybe McDonald's can learn from that. Right. All sorts of stuff like that. And I think all the big players at the time, big market research companies, they'd produce a report once a year. They might ask 1,000 kids. Well, we were asking 1,000 kids a week. At the time, it's like now tens of thousands of kids a week we ask. And so, fidget spinners will come and go between their reports. They're out of date as soon as they're written. And if you break down 1,000 kids across age groups, you're like, well, that's like one boy of this age group in this region. So it's no insight at all. Whereas we were surveying loads of people, it was like real time. You saw trends before they happened. We knew what movies were going to flop before the studios did and all sorts. So I said to him, that's more my thing, but maybe if it was more software. Then he said, okay, so I've got this agency where we'll do any research for anyone. I do have this subscription product that we sell a bit, and we're building this software where you can drill down into the data, and we were going to give that away for free, sell the subscription, but I'm mainly here to talk about my agency. I went, okay, well, if you stop doing the agency and charge for the software and give away the reports free, I'm in. So I ended up investing. We remodeled the whole strategy and structure, and that's gone phenomenally well. I think it was public, so I'm allowed to say that they raised 6 million only a few months ago, valuing the company quite high. My shares, I've been diluted a bit, but my shares are worth more than I got from Learning Heroes. So investment's going well. Coach culture isn't a nice little lifestyle thing, keeps me happy, but I found myself with a bit too much free time now, so I'm launching a few new things, getting that whole, what I said to you before, one in 10 businesses successful, just launch 10. There you go. Yeah. Sorted. So I'm getting a bit now, put a few horses in the race and see which one gets to the front, and then I'll jump on it.
So actually, if anybody listening has got a subscription style digital learning business, then they should reach out.
It's super tight criteria. If they sell business to corporate, price points got to be right. But I decided I'm just going to go super, super tight on that niche, and I get so hands on with them. Really, day one, I was building stuff with them. But then quite quickly it outgrows me. I'm like a 0 to 1 million guy. Once it starts getting too big, I'm a bit like, oh, this is...
What, it's not your sweet spot, do you mean?
I think so. I think I could scale bigger businesses, but I don't think... Then I'm back to being the new guy because it's first time again. So whereas 0 to 1 million I've done so many times, it's now that's just... So
is it a bit more like the excitement as well? Because I feel like 0 to a million, it's like it's full energy or and I guess
I think it's the hardest bit as well.
Yeah, and then the business has to grow up a bit after that, I guess, doesn't it? And
and I do like all of that, like the leadership side and the building cultures and stuff. But I like the 5 people sat around a whiteboard trying to solve it and getting it wrong, and iterating and once you've then figured it out, the scale side you could kind of get other people to do. Whereas I don't think I could go and employ someone and say, go and solve a problem that no one's solved before and go and do this and invent it and take a load of risk. I don't think you can employ them people, whereas, I can probably find people who could get us from B to C and then C to D, but
Yeah, totally. So with coaching culture now, like how much of your time, of your energy is it like are you in it full time?
It's funny because I stepped back about 2 years ago, and the people who are left in charge and my business partner called me up and she went, Adam, this is going off a cliff. You need to come back. So
oh, really?
Pretty much just stepped back in, stripped it all back, restructured every single aspect of it within like 2 weeks, which is amazing, to be honest. I was like stood there going, this felt a bit easy. Like it was a weird time, that transition.
And what was that? Was it the people in the business?
You're constantly like going, right, well, we'll try that, we'll try this, and we'll try that, and we'll try that. And I think what I'd call like zombie projects, where they don't quite come alive, but they don't quite die. So we had all these like zombie arms to the business where it was like, right, well, we've got the magazine and the podcast and the conference and the awards and the app and the this and that. And I was just like, we're all busy fools. We're doing all this stuff. And so I just stripped everything back. One of the biggest decisions I made was actually cutting out one of our income streams, which my accountant probably freaked out. They were like, that's what's keeping the lights on. I was like, no, that's what's stopping us growing the good income.
Yeah.
And one of our mutual friends used to say, not all income is equal, and that stuck with me. So I would always go after the best quality income, as in the one you do the least work for, the one that, again, when it comes to an exit, somebody's going to value my subscription revenue at 5x. They're going to value my professional services revenue at 1x. So focusing on cutting out the thing that was paying the bills, to take the brave step to say, no, if we get rid of all that, we're going to be free to get the good income to the level.
What's that? The stuff that was paying the bills?
So it's what we would call professional services. So going on site and doing coaching, doing training.
Right.
Yeah. So time for money, though, that's kind of how I would see it. So we charge a day rate. The trainers probably made more from it than we did, but we were the ones doing a lot of the work.
Right.
So cutting that out was a brave decision at the time, but paid off. And I think it allowed us to get the business to where, like say now, it's nice, neat, team are all in place. Every single person in the business has got one job, and they're all know what that is. And so it's good. But it's been quite a busy, I'd say 18 months or so, getting it to this point. So when you're asking how much time, I've been given it a lot of time, whereas now it's really is just kind of make sure everyone's supported, point it in the right direction. I feel like I've got more time now to, like say, dabble with a few new things. Which, I don't know. It's been a while since I've done it. So.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really key point, though, because I feel like lots of businesses have loads of things and ideas and that they want to execute, but that is a brilliant term, zombie projects, that they just hang and nothing actually happens with them.
You've got to go and kill them off.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of also like making that decision to kill some of them off, it might feel but actually it has got potential, but then you become busy fools. And just in my own business, like the fact that you say like the team members have got one job and they know how to do that well, that's also really important, because we can all just do, well, you pick up that as well, you pick up this bit too.
I find like, if someone's responsible for sales and they've got anything else to do, they will do that before they do the sales and stuff. So it's that principle, but applied to everyone's job. So any company I ever work in, we map out the customer journey, and it's getting them from A to B to C to D, and everybody's responsible for that one step.
Amazing.
So, you get the leads in, you get them to sales, you get them to customer, you get them to renew. Like, it's just everybody knows their one core KPI, their single point of obsession. And then there's other stuff that support it. But yeah, if somebody tells me like, oh, I've been doing this, it's like, not at the expense of your single point, of obsession that you have to focus on. So
that's really interesting. Literally today, me, Rivka and Julia, another member of the team, we were in a meeting room in Manchester going through our customer journey. And that, so where I had to get my own head out of, like, we're talking about sales, not using the person's name and actually going sales, because then I realized that the person who's doing sales is also doing some customer retention, and also like, are the customers happy, and also doing this thing on a Friday. And same with actually a lot of roles, and it kind of made us realize we just need some really clear focus on people, moving them along the journey.
I mean, for you in your journey, like, you've studied success so much, clarity is so important. And obviously it's the same for anyone in their roles. They need clarity, and number one reason people leave their job really is because they feel unclear and unsure and not supported. So everybody's super clear. It helps massively, and I can trust more. I know what to measure. I know how to develop them. So I can't imagine now having people just all mucking in and doing a bit of this, bit of that. Yeah, I just try and strip it right back, but make it fun. I don't want to have a monotonous, boring job. So the right people in the right role where they're able to add their own spin to it. But yeah, everybody's got one single job, and it's easier to manage.
Yeah, totally. I think that is one reason why business owners don't enjoy their business, because they've got these people that are all doing like multiple things and actually trying to, well, what happened to that? Oh, well, I was also doing this. And then you kind of create your own bed, don't you?
It's sort of, accountability is sort of implied. You don't have to even bring it up. It's just like, well, yeah. And it allows me to do what I like. I have to do the invention stuff. Like, if there's something new that needs doing, I will do it, figure it out, and then continuously make myself redundant. It'd be like, right, well, now that I've done the same thing a few times in a row, I can train someone. And now that I've done the job myself, I know the type of person I want to do it. So whenever anything new needs doing, it's like, right, I'll do that because it's shiny new thing, and I'll do it until I get bored. But the beauty of that is you kind of know who you want in the role, what it's about, and you can it's easier to manage when you've done it as well. So
yeah.
But I get to keep myself sort of interested as well, doing new things. So.
Just going back to Learning Heroes, and so you bootstrapped that, did you? So like because I feel it, I might be wrong, but when you go into a business with capital, and I guess you've got a bit more bandwidth and you've got more time, and bootstrapping something is very different. And I'm guessing that was a roller coaster journey of ups and downs. And I just feel like pulling out the fact that you went into that with knowing that you were doing it to exit. I think like having such a clear goal of where you're going is also important to enjoying, or at least like maintain, like keep going when things are more difficult. Because I think for a lot of business owners, if they're not like, well, I can't sell my business, somebody says, I can't sell my business, somebody won't want it. And it's almost a bit like, where are we going with it? It's...
I'll tell you again, a mindset that we had at the time, which I have never heard anyone speak the way I speak about it, was most people are like, well, I'll get my business to worth about 20 mil and then I'll see if there's a buyer. Well, that might take 20 years, 30 years, might never happen.
Yeah.
I said to the guys, like, we're selling on that day, it'll be worth what it's worth. So
really? Like you picked the actual day?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much, because of my birthday and the retirement.
Oh, yeah, of course, you need to
but
lose that bet.
So I was like, we are going to sell on that day. It'll be worth what it's worth. If you want it to be worth more, let's get urgent and get stuff done. So we had this like culture of time is more important than this arbitrary value that might happen, which is obvious when you think about it. We all kind of know in other areas of our lifetime's important, but when I see someone setting a bit of an exit plan, they're like, no, the value's the goal. I'm like, well, time's the one thing that's the measure of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh my, yeah, that's a really interesting way to go about it. Yeah. Actually, we've got this end date, so what can we get done prior to it?
It changes, like say it changes priority. Like, there's some deals I was working on, which I was like, well, they're going to take too long. We focused on everything being quick. Like, so again, we left a lot of money on the table with our customers, but I'd say we reward quick. In terms of they would have paid a lot more. Say we charged them $5,000, they would have paid probably 20, 30. But we were like, if you do the deal quicker, if you sign up now,
all right,
you'll get, we'll reward that with discounts and give you the best price. Like that was how to do it. So I would tell my team, it'd be like, I want you to optimize speed of sale. I don't want you to maximize the value of the sale.
Wow.
And the beauty of that was, obviously, it's money in the bank that month. The renewal comes forward. it's another name on the board to tell other people we work with them. So there was such a momentum with that traction, like creating that urgency for deals, as opposed to, oh, well, we could get 100 grand off all of them in 6 months. Well, we might run out of money between now and then. So speed of sale mattered more than maximizing every opportunity. And then you can start, actually, we've got money in the bank, spend a little bit longer, get a little bit more, but don't, I'm not going to pat you on the back for saying I got absolutely the maximum. Just we came in just below the budget. I'm not impressed. I want it quicker.
Yeah. And how did you manage that with the team? Like, I know did you have 2 business partners, but the people that worked for you? Because I feel like a lot of business owners often would feel reticent about ever saying they might be thinking of selling, or like, how did you manage that with the team you had?
Yeah, it was interesting as the team grew, and obviously the people who came in first, I think when we sold, we might have had like about 25 in the team. So, and I felt really bad about this because, like I said, you give it your all and it matters so much, and then there's a day where you're going like, should I really get close to this person because I know I'm not going to be here much longer and I don't want to feel bad about it. And then when it was a point of like, I don't really know their second name and I don't really know much about them, and I felt a bit weird about it, but like I said, it was... You were on a mission. You had like a very clear vision which you were executing on. Yeah, so there were some people who came in early where I think they obviously picked up on, well, these guys have started the business because they want to sell it for millions. And so, again, I learned sort of how to do that. I mean, the guy who I interviewed for the MD role, I said, look, I'm going to sell the business. They're going to want me to do an earn out. I don't want to do it. You'll have to do it. Do you want the job? That was kind of the conversation. So he was obviously in on it, and kind of, when they came in and they offered him loads of share options and a bonus and a pay rise. Well, I said to the guy when he bought it, I said, oh, the team are really loyal to me. Like, they're all bought into my vision, my style. He went, oh, we're going to give them all pay rises. They won't remember you by tomorrow. I was like... It was
I guess you felt less bad after that anyway, didn't you?
It's a huge factor to find a buyer that was going to look after the team as the biggest one. The customers, they honoured loads of deals we had done. They honoured lots of the staff. The company that bought was a big Silicon Valley tech giant, and then even then they ended up part of SAP. I think they're all on mad pensions. I didn't. Yeah, legally, I did not contact anyone to see if they'd work with me. I spoke with a few of them after. I was like, and they were like, you just can't match my wage now. I'm like, no, I can't. Good for you, So they were all made up.
So they were all buzzing.
Yeah, they all got like, they were all happy with the opportunities it brought. So it was win-win-win all round. And I think I only ever would have done a deal, like I said, someone who wanted to come in and just wipe us out or bump the price or something. I wouldn't have done that just on principle. Even if it was the best price, I wouldn't have done it. But it mattered a lot that they were going to look after the team and the customers.
And you had young kids at the time, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so. My son must have been 7. My daughter must have been about 3. So,
right.
Yeah.
And was that tricky? How was that?
I don't know. Like we didn't.
Or was it also a bit easier? Just is it Kimberly you wife?
Yeah.
Was it also a bit like, because Kimberly's also like, well, I know we're doing this for 3. Like that was the plan. Did that make?
I don't think we put in crazy hours.
No,
honestly, I don't know. I honestly think we kind of did 9-5 Monday to Friday.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But when I had my corporate job, like I said, I was living out of a suitcase in Luton, pretty much working every evening because you're in meetings all day. Like, when am I supposed to do the actual work? So you ended up doing that in your evenings. And then when I was in my home office, before you've even got dressed, you were sat at your desk just replying to a few emails. So my work-life balance was pretty bad in my corporate role. So when I set up that first company, which was, right, the purpose of this business is to just give me a better lifestyle, friends and family, sort of a platform to launch other businesses, I think I kind of struck that work-life balance in day one. And when I mentor certain other founders and they're like, oh, I'm doing 8-hour weeks. I'm like, well, why not 120? Why have you capped it at 80? Why can't you cap it at 60 or 40? Like
actually make the decision.
At some point, there's a point, and all it does is show that you're not delegating well, you're taking on too much, whatever. There's got to be a boundary, and I just kind of draw that boundary at 30 hours or so. And I just know what I'm effective at. You're probably only going to get like 3 good hours out of me a day. After that, it's like, what's took me an hour, I could do in 10 minutes tomorrow morning. So I just don't ever really pretend that hours is a badge of honor. I value being productive and effective, and I just wouldn't ever think there's the odd week, 1 week a year where we have to graft or pull something off for a deadline, but pretty typically, if I'm done, I'm like, oh, I'll just call it a day. So, we never really, I don't think like building it, those 3 years of building a business that was like that, I don't think we particularly did that whole Gary V work through the night so your eyes bleed stuff. It wasn't
which I feel like he talks about differently now.
Yeah, I think he pulled out, he changed it. Yeah.
So would you say that, so when you just said then about like, obviously if you're like doing 80 hours, 120 hours, you're obviously not delegating effectively. Like when you're mentoring founders and stuff, do you think that's a key part of enjoying your business? Like, I guess if you're so specific on, say, selling the first business in 3 years, you had to get the right people around you, didn't you? Because all you would have been doing is doing more. And
well, when I said to like my advisor at the time, I'm like, I'm going to sell the business. I'm just going to hand over the keys and walk away. And they went, it doesn't work like that. Well, I did that. That's what happened. I was there a day and a half, and that's only because it got stuck in traffic on day one. So, it happened exactly like I said it would, and they said that's not what happened. So I built the business to be able to say.
So who said it wouldn't happen like that? The people
some
buying,
advisors,
the
advisors around me are there who were saying like, no, it's 1 year earn out, 2 year earn out. It might be this, it might be that. I was like, no, I'm going to hand over the keys and walk away, and that's exactly how it played out. But I'd built the business with like say constantly making myself redundant. Whenever I start a new thing, it's like, okay, I'm bored of this now. I've done all the invention bit. It's a known thing now. Recruit someone for it. So I've always been a big fan. It was when I worked at Burger King at age 15, 16. Some guy said to me, it's like, I think at the time I had this working class background that was like, you don't want to be replaceable because they can get rid of you. And he said, well, if you're not replaceable, they can't promote you. I was like, oh yeah. So I've never been afraid of like not being needed. That to me is I get validation from being lazy. Like I'm the guy who made it work without having to try too hard. Whereas validation from being the guy who does the most hours is just to me madness.
Oh, I love that about making yourself redundant. Because I feel like a lot of people leave that way too late, where they're like, they've taken on that, but now they've also taken on something else, and they're doing all of the things rather than getting someone to do it who's often better at them than them at it, or got a specialism in it.
That's how it works exactly with me. Like the people who I then hand it over to, because that's their one thing. They make it better than I ever could. You'll probably use the phrase as often as I do of only do things you're uniquely qualified to do. And I know that the stuff I do other people couldn't really do, but I would never do the same thing twice. Like if I can do it a few times, somebody else could do it. So I barely repeat anything. And like I say, it keeps me interested. I'm always working on something a little bit innovative.
Yeah.
So the constantly making myself redundant thing's been a bit of a mantra for a while, yeah.
I love that. I think there's one takeaway today, because I think a lot of people don't enjoy the business because they're so, as Nigel would say, like stuck in the weeds, isn't it? But if they just keep making themselves redundant, it is possibly one of the smartest things you can keep doing.
If you're not uniquely qualified to do it, if it's not your highest contribution, your highest impact, then, it's all right doing anything temporarily, but to get stuck doing it, you're doing yourself a disservice. You've got a duty to your family, to your team, to your investors to be a success and do. So I think you're letting everyone down if you get stuck doing that.
Oh yeah, that's a great perspective on it, actually, that you're not doing everyone around you that's part of your business wants you to do well. You're not doing them the service that they should have. Yeah,
those people who believe in you, you've got a duty to them to be the best. And I think it's irresponsible to not delegate well or solve, free up your time, constantly be freeing up your time so you can be doing the highest impact stuff. And no one like I said, you can't really go and employ people who'll go and invent something new or innovate something crazily well. So really that's your job, isn't it? So
totally. I know we're nearly running out of time, but I just wanted to, because I feel like with the first business, it was so specific, that 3-year goal. And I mean, there'll be loads of people listening to this that for them to think about, selling the business in 3 years, whether it's a service business or a time for money business, that's going to be a bit tricky for them. But like actually having that end goal, whatever it might be, like, have you applied that in coaching culture, like the people working in it? Or like, I know you work with Joe, and do they think, like, are you moving to somewhere specific, or are you just enjoying serving the customers? And
It was the plan. Like I said, I've got this formula of how to do it in 3 years. Let's go do it again. And it was kind of like, certain things were different about that business model that didn't make it. I just never felt like the company was kind of finished and in a place where I could just hand over the key type thing. So I feel like I'm probably sort of, I don't know, maybe mid next year, I think June next year it would be in a position to actually entertain offers, but I don't want to sell. I think for me now, because then what we're going to do, go and have to invent something else. So I feel like this is actually a really nice thing for me for a lifestyle thing.
Do you think the team, how big is the team in coaching culture?
There's only something like 6, 7. I don't know why I can never know the number. It's not hard. Count on my hand, but there's just a handful of us now. At one point, I think we were a team of about 18.
Oh, right. Wow. Okay.
Restructuring everything and it's just, well, again, to the point of the podcast, there was a point where I was just like, I'm just going to optimize happiness so I could just make this easier and make it enjoyable and not for coaching culture. That's not the mission now. The mission is we all have to work, we all want that income. So if we're enjoying our job and happy customers, good product, let's just enjoy it. So the whole team are just totally bought in. They're so loyal and dedicated to that, because they want that.
Yeah.
So,
because I feel like often a lot of business owners might think I need to have some kind of growth, like massive growth plan or take over the world plan to keep my team engaged or bought in but actually this is just about really enjoying what we're doing.
We're 7 years in. If it kind of hasn't happened, I'm not going to waste 3 more years to try and, what's the potential of this isn't as big. Like it'll grow and it'll grow steadily and it's worth a good amount of money. Like it's good, healthy revenue. But, if I want to do another shot at some sort of 10, 20 mil more exit, I've got a few other ideas that probably could scale quicker and give them the shot. So, for me, coach culture now, there was a plan originally, like let's grow this to a point and sell it. But I think we bit off not more than we could do. We bit off a bigger sort of vibe because it's more software, it's more complicated, and the exit would look very different. And I think I just came to terms with like this is not going to be as easy a sell.
Right, but actually it's generating really good profits and enjoyable and
that's the thing. I think like I get to a point where I'm not enjoying it, I would sell, but as it stands, it's quite enjoyable and easy and. But that's like I said, 18 months of real graft to get to that position. But thinking I'm going to optimize happiness as opposed to optimize growth.
Love that. Yeah. Optimizing happiness. I need to ask you a question. I remember for ages on Facebook, I would see you talk about being a billionaire.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like but I feel like that was maybe, I hardly go on Facebook now anyway, but like I do feel like that I used to see you talking about that a lot, about what it took to be a billionaire, that you wanted to be a billionaire, like you were going to get there.
I'm still convinced.
And where are you on that?
Well, it's billionaire by 60. I think most billionaires make all of like 90% of their wealth in like the last 10 years of their life.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, it's not like, it's very kind of hard. And when you've got all that back, you've invested it all in like, I imagine that the billionaire will happen by accident because I put it in some stock. I'll accidentally pick Tesla of the future. So I'm not thinking I'm going to build $1 billion. I'm not going to build Airbnb. I'll accidentally one day pick a winner.
But it's on your
like I say, I just think
psyche thinking about
I just think it'll happen.
It's an interesting question to consider, isn't it?
Well, the billionaire thing comes me. It's like bringing up Gary Vee again. I barely think of him. I mentioned him twice, but like, he doesn't really want to buy the jets. It's the thought of buying a jet. So I don't, I don't care if a billionaire or not. What would you do with £1 billion? It's just mental, isn't it? So what it is for me is when I think deeply about my life and I think about, I want to achieve my potential. I want to be my best self. Well, for me, my game is entrepreneurship, building businesses and stuff. So billionaire is just one word, one goal, which sums up a massive philosophy that I have that hopefully drives me to be the best I can be at what I do. So, I'm not going to cry about, I've only made 200 million. I missed my billionaire target. I'll definitely not worry about it. But it's still, not that any of you want to think about me in the shower, but every morning glass steams up, I write the word billionaire in there.
Do you?
Yeah.
How interesting.
Because it's just focuses me on my ambition and drive.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not, oh, I'm not satisfied until, I'm grateful every day for everything I've got. But yeah, I still think it'll happen.
So do you, just on that, do you like, but not believe in, but do like manifesting things? Do you believe in, having it in your mindset? So like, the whole thing of like, look, I'm going to buy a red car and I see all the red cars. Like, do you have it in the,
so
I'm aware of it?
I mean, I'm as atheist as you can be.
Yeah.
I don't believe in any sort of universal fate type, spiritual stuff, but you will catch me going like, oh God, the universe is throwing a few things my way at the moment. Like, it's so coincidental, like weird stuff happening. But I do believe in the power of the mind. I do believe that if you've asked your unconscious mind to do stuff, it will filter out. Yeah. So yeah, like the red car, the reticular activation type side of things, I'm pretty sure it's proven, right? So yeah. So, I set a bet that I'd retire by 35. I retired a few months before 35. That's weird, right? I mean... Yeah,
no, unbelievable.
I mean, I was in a pretty good job and I was like, well, I'm not going to be able to retire by 35 in this job, so I'll quit this well-paid job and start a risky business. So having that, it does focus the mind. Like, I definitely do think clarity and planning backwards. So start with the end in mind. So like I said, like that, we're going to sell on this date, and plan backwards, starting with, billionaire by 60. There might be one day when I'm thinking, I've got all my money tied up in safe funds. I'll never get to be a billionaire. Let's go and take some risks. So there'll be some weird unconscious reason that makes you do something a bit different. So, you can't control the outcome. It's randomness. And, again, I would always say don't be outcome orientated. You want to be principle orientated. When you're making decisions, you make the best decisions you can make at the time with what you know. The outcome's the outcome. You just don't know. But I do think it's, so I won't call it manifesting in a sense, because it feels woo-woo, it feels part of the secret crowd. But yeah, I guess it's definitely, I definitely do consciously think, if I tell my unconscious brain, it'll do the hard work for me. Like I do a bit of self-NLP or something, I don't know.
Yeah. Adam, today's been amazing. It's been really, really apparent to me, like how much you have planned for outcomes, or like reverse engineered where you want to get to and then made it happen. Yeah. I think there's lots of business owners actually that probably even might be like floating along now, like stuck in the weeds, and they've kind of forgot where they're meant to be going, or because then you make the most, like the best decisions from that, or what's the, like you, when in coaching culture and you shut things down, like you were then able to go, well, this isn't the best use of our time. And I think often business owners get overwhelmed because they're just like stuck in the weeds, forgetting where they're meant to be going.
Well, it's every guru ever, the first thing they catch you out with is work on your business, not in your business. And you're like, oh, that's profound. But, and I know you're a big fan of that, and you'll definitely take the step back and do some design. And I step back, and I think it was weird to me because I'm like, more or less I'd work on my business first and in the business second. So like that mentality of like, building a business, like I don't really care what the business is. I wasn't some baker who decided, I'm good at baking, I'll start a bakery. I was like, I want to start a business. What should I do?
What actually is this?
Yeah, so working on the business and systems and stuff was always part of the plan. So I think when you see it in everyone, and a lot of people starting up, that's just such an alien concept to them, that actually take a day out, go and actually pen and paper and a whiteboard and
and what that might look like,
and doing it with a group of people can help as well. So but that think time is massive. I mean,
proper thinking time. That's not like full of distractions or emails or actually just thinking.
Well, normal people go on holiday to switch off. I switch on. That's when you properly start dreaming about what's possible.
Yeah, because you get the space to just let your mind go to where it wants to go to. Do you reckon you've got like billionaire like tide mark in the shower screen that needs like cleaning off? Because you it's like it's just there, you can see it when the light reflects through.
Yeah, there'll be like a dent in it.
Adam, thank you so much. That's been absolutely fantastic today.
I'm glad I could pretend to be happy for an hour and have some charisma, but I got back to be miserable.
You smashed it. Everybody will think you're happy and charismatic.